Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Krawler deck profile. So I'm really excited to do some for you guys because this deck was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Izzy. And this deck is an extremely fun flip effect deck that has some insane tech cards. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like in your name, description of a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron. And definitely give Izzy some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one, guys. So first off, we're playing 3 copies of Soma. Soma is one of the most powerful cards in the entire deck because this card helps you swarm the board with all sorts of awesome Krawler monsters. This card has the ability to target a face-up monster you control, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, change the targeted monster to face-down defense position. Also, it cannot change its battle position for the rest of this turn. And during the main phase, you can reduce this card's level by 2 or 4, and if you do, special summon Krawler monsters with different names from your hand, deck, or graveyard, whose total level equal the reduced number in face-up or face-down defense position, which is insane that just by reducing this level by 4, you can instantly bring out 2 Krawler monsters out to your side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Receptor. Receptor is definitely a 3-up in the build because this card is an awesome flip effect. Let you add a Krawler monster from your deck to your hand, which will help you get to your copy of Soma. But all of your Krawler monsters that are level 2 actually share a common effect, and if this face-up card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can special them to 2 Krawler monsters with different names from your deck in face-down defense position, except another copy of the Krawler that you're using, which is so cool that they replace themselves so easily. We then play 2 copies of Krawler Spine. Spine is definitely a 2-up in the build because this card is basically a man-eater bug. And when this card is flipped face up, you can target 1 monster on the field and destroy that monster. We then play 2 copies of Gila. Gila is really good as a 2-of in the build because this card has the ability, when it's flipped face up, you get to special summon a Krawler monster from your hand or graveyard and face-up attack or face-down defense position, except another copy of this card, which is a really cool effect. We then play a single copy of Axion. Axion is really good as a 1-up because this card helps you pop spells and traps on the field. As if this card's flipped face up, you can target a spell or trap on the field and destroy that target. We then play a single copy of Ravener. Ravener is really amazing in the deck as a 1-up as well. As this card has the ability, when it's flipped face up, you can target up to 2 Krawler monsters in your graveyard and add them back to your hand, which is a crazy powerful effect to help you grab your Krawlers back out of the grave. We then play a single copy of Dendrite. Dendrite is really good in the deck as a 1-up and actually has the highest attack points among all of your Krawler monsters that are flip effects. And this card is a really cool ability that if this card is flipped face up, you get to send a monster from your deck to the graveyard, which is a great ability to instantly get the exact Krawler you need in the grave. We then play 2 copies of Deus Ex Krawler. This card is insanely powerful in the deck and definitely a 2-up in the build, as this card is such a cool card. This card has the ability that when your opponent activates a card effect, it targets this face-down monster. Quick effect, change this card to face-up defense position and negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card after this card was flipped face up. It also has the ability, when this card is flipped face up, while it is in the monster zone, negate the effects of all monsters that are activated on your opponent's side of the field. And if this card on the field is destroyed by a battle by card effect, you can add from your deck to your hand 1 level 9 monster with a different regional type and attribute than this card, which is a pretty interesting ability, but it's insane this card is a 1-sided skill drain once it's flipped face up. We then play 3 copies of Girsu. Girsu is really cool as a 3-up in the build because this card has the ability that if this card is normal or special summon, you can send a World Legacy card from your deck to the graveyard, which is insane to help you get the exact World Legacy card you need into the graveyard, like a copy of Mind Mill. This card is such a powerful 3-up in the deck and one of the best normal summons in the entire build. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom's definitely a 3-up in the build to basically just stop the opponent from touching the deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Pot of Prosperity. Pot of Prosperity helps out a lot in this deck to help you dig in the deck for the exact card that you need. We then play a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is amazing in this build to basically just stop your opponent's hand traps while you're trying to go in for all of your plays. We then play 2 copies of World Legacy in Shadow. This card is an awesome field spell that has an insane ability that basically lets all Krawler monsters on the field gain 300 attack and defense, and once per turn, you can special summon a level 2 or lower insect monster from your hand in face up or face down defense position, which is a really cool ability to help you swarm the board with your Krawler monsters. Also, when your flip monster is destroyed by battle with an opponent's monster, you can send that opponent's monster to the graveyard, which is a really cool effect to be able to use, but I feel like 2 copies is really all you need, especially with how consistent this deck actually is. We then play 3 copies of World Legacy Survivor. Survivor is really good as a 3-of in the build, and just an insane card overall, because this card lets you excavate the top 5 cards of your deck, and if you do, add 1 excavated Krawler monster or a World Legacy card to your hand. Also, send the remaining cards to the graveyard, otherwise, shuffle all excavated cards back in the deck, and for the rest of the turn, after this card resolves, you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck except link monsters, which is totally fine because it's usually all we're summoning anyways. We then play 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods. Goods is good. This card is amazing as a 3-of in the build. Help us send our copy of Mind Meld from our deck to the graveyard so we can get that awesome trap card into the grave. So, that's it for these spells, guys. Let's get in to the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start off with 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence is definitely a 3-of build to basically just stop your opponent's monster effects and also lock down entire columns of spells and traps. We then play 3 copies of World Legacy's Mind Meld. Mind Meld is definitely a 3-of build, and a card you always want to be able to get into your graveyard, as this card has the ability when your opponent's monster activates its effect while you control a Krawler monster, the activated effect becomes return 1 face-up monster your opponent controls back to the hand, which will make our Krawlers go off. This card also has the ability that you can banish this card from the graveyard and then target a link monster on the field and then special summon a Krawler monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard to zone that monster points to in face down defense position, which is why we play cards like Foolish Burial Goods and we play cards like Gearsuit to be able to get this card into the grave. We then play 3 copies of World Legacy Pawns. Pawns is really cool as a 3-of in the deck, because this card has a really cool effect that you can actually target a face-down monster you control, change it to face-up attack position or defense position, and you can also shuffle a Krawler monster in your graveyard into the main deck, and then target a face-up monster that you control and change it to face-down defense position, and you'll activate 1 of this card's effects per turn and only once that turn, but it's great to be able to play in the deck as a 3-of to basically flip-flop your monsters. So, that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with a single copy of Krawler. Krawler is an awesome boss monster that is just a game-ending card. This card requires 2 Krawler monsters to make this card, and if this face-up card is destroyed by battle, or it leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect while its owner's controlling it, you can actually target 2 Krawler monsters with different names in your graveyard and special summon them in face-down defense position. And also, depending on the amount of Krawler monsters that you control, this card gains effects. If you control 2, then all monsters you control gain 300 attack and defense. If you control 4, your opponent's monsters cannot activate their effects during the battle phase. If you control 6, your monsters can attack directly, which is a game-ending effect, which is so cool to be able to instantly go in for game with all of your Krawler monsters. Then play a single copy of Niragoros. Niragoros is really good as a 1-of in this build, as this card has the ability that Krawler monsters this card points to cannot be destroyed by battle and gain 300 attack and defense, and if they battle your opponent's monsters, any battle damage inflicted to your opponent is doubled, which is a crazy powerful effect, especially when you combine it with cards like Krawler that's just going to make it so your opponent or your monsters can attack directly. This card is really good as a 1-of in the build, but I feel like 1 is really all you need. We then play a single copy of the other Krawler Link monster. This card is really good as a 1-of in the build as well. It does require just 2 Earth monsters to make this card, and Krawler monsters this card points to cannot be destroyed by battle and gain 300 attack and defense points, and can make up to 2 attacks on monsters during each battle phase, which is a pretty interesting effect. And then a single copy of Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax. Avermax just belongs in this deck for the lore, and it's really cool overall to make this card because it's so easy to summon out to your side of the field in this deck, and it becomes basically like a towers when you summon it out to your side of the field, which is so cool. We then play a single copy of Access Code. Access Code's great in this deck to be able to play because it helps you pop cards on the field, and it comes out absolutely massive in this deck. We then play a single copy of Nightmare Unicorn to spin stuff, one copy of Nightmare Phoenix to pop spells and traps, a single copy of Asa. Asa is really good in this deck as a 1/0 to be able to make because you do play a lot of earth monsters in this build, so this card comes up a lot to help you link climb into the exact card that you need. We then play a single copy of Lib the World Key Blade Master. This card comes in extremely handy in the deck and just requires any 2 monsters to make this card, but you can only link summon this card when you have a World Legacy card in the graveyard. And this card is usually during the main phase. You can set a World Legacy spell or trap from your deck, but it cannot activate this turn while you have no World Legacy monster in the graveyard. And if this card is linked, if this link summon card is sent to the graveyard as a link material, you can shuffle 1 card on the field into the deck, non-targeting. We then play a single copy of SP. SP is really good in the deck as a 1/0 to basically use this card as a double interruption. It's just a great card overall. Play a single copy of IP. IP is great in the deck as a 1/0 as well. This helps you go in for your copy of Avermax to make it basically a tank, which is insane because it's basically a towers on your side of the field because it can be destroyed by card effects, and then it has all of its bonus effects, which is insane. Let me see a copy of Ninja Shadow Mosquito. This card is a really cool tech card in the deck. You play so many level 2s in this build, and this card is really cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, you take no battle damage from battles involving this card, and all monsters that your opponent control must attack if able, making them actually attack into your Krawler monsters or this card. And when an attack is declared, you can activate one of these effects to detach a material from this card, and if you do, place a hallucination counter on one face of the monster your opponent controls, and the effect, if any, of that monster with a hallucination counter is negated, or you inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack of one monster on the field with a hallucination counter on it, which is really interesting to actually make this card out on your side of the field. So you can basically just do burn damage to the opponent, but it also makes your opponent's monsters attack, which is really good for us, so our crawlers will flip face up. We play a single copy of Sky Cavalry. This is just really good to help us make our copy of Zeus, 1 copy of Downer Magician just so we can get additional material under a copy of Zeus, and then finally a single copy of Zeus. Zeus is really good in the deck as 1/0 to basically just board wipe the field. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played a Krawler deck before, you should definitely give this deck a try because it's actually a very budget deck to be able to pick up, and it's super interesting with all the different flip effects that you can actually swarm your opponent extremely easily with broken cards like Soma, which is such a powerful card to be able to summon in this build. So that's gonna do for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.